Hello everyone, welcome to NetSlow Productions. I'm Oliver, and in this tutorial we are going to be showing you how to mask your lightsabers using masks in After Effects. So, without any further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so let's get started. In the previous video, we talked a little bit about Adobe Dynamic Link, and that's what we're going to be using today in this tutorial. So first, what we want to do is go over here and create a new composition. We can just call this Lightsaber. Let's call it Lightsaber Comp and make it the resolution of your video. I don't think it matters too much because when you drag in the footage, I believe normally it's the correct pixel size and everything. So now what we're going to do is find your Premiere Pro project file. It's just right here. I have some other stuff for this tutorial, but we're just going to drag this and drop it into the timeline. And you can see this import Premiere Pro sequence pops up. And we're just going to click on this. Normally this is the final timeline. If you had other timelines in here, that would probably be in here as well. There's some different sounds and stock media, which doesn't seem to have anything. But this is the final sequence. So we're just going to click that and hit OK. And you can see it's imported the footage into our timeline perfectly. And if we play it, you can see it has all the sounds and everything in it. So it's perfect. And of course, if we went into the actual Premiere project and changed anything, it would change in here. All right, with that out of the way, you're going to want to make a white solid, and this is what we're going to be using our masks on. So we're going to hit right click and create new solid. We'll just call this, let's call this blue lightsaber. Blue lightsaber. Make comp size, it's important, and then also the color needs to be pure white, so 6 Fs there. You can see it blots out the entire screen, so we're just going to disable the viewing on that, and then go to a frame where the lightsaber is clearly visible, doesn't have a lot of motion blur on it. Right there. And now we're going to take the pen tool, and we're going to make some points on the mask. So you can middle click to drag in After Effects and then use the scroll wheel to move around. We're going to make 6 points. You can do 8 points if you want. 4 points won't look very good because it'll look kind of boxy even if you throw a bunch of blur effects on there. So we're just going to do 6 or 8, I would recommend. 8 is a little bit more tedious to rotoscope just because you have more points, but 6 will work just fine. So we'll go down here. This is pretty long. And we'll just make a 6-point mask. Looks like this. And then finally connect it. And now before we do anything with the mask path or we start animating it, we're going to want to round out the edges of the mask here. So what we're going to do is go over to the pen tool, click and hold left click, and you'll see there's a bunch of options that pop up here. So still holding left click, you'll drag over to here and then hit Convert Vertex Tool. It's a bit of a tongue twister there. So we're going to come over to here and you see the little triangle. Then you'll click it and you'll see it basically bevels the mask point. So if we go over here to our selection tool again, you can see I can move it, and these little levers or knobs you can move around and you'll see it'll twist the mask, and if we pull it out more, it'll bevel it more, I guess you could say, or make it more round. And we're actually going to do this to the bottom, I guess you could say, closest to the hilt part of the lightsaber, and also the top. You can also do this on the sides if you want. I just personally prefer not to do that because I kind of like making a tip at the end, so we'll undo that. So yeah, that's the basic process of making the mask, and we can switch back to the normal pen tool and then hit our selection tool, and this is pretty much ready almost to rotoscope. We just got to put it in the correct position. Like this, we can bevel the edges a little bit more, and this is pretty much the process for every frame. because rotoscoping is a very tedious process, takes quite a long time in some cases. So I'm just gonna make that. That's looking pretty good. It's a little rough. When we add the effects later in the next part of this tutorial series, it'll blur it out a little bit. So we have a little room to make some errors. So before you go onto the next frame, what we're gonna do is come over here to mask and hit mask path and hit the little stopwatch there. You can see it says time vary stopwatch. Basically means that every frame you go, it'll animate another point of the mask. You can see it's made a little point there. So if we go to the next frame, I've switched this to F5 and F6 for frame backward and frame forward, just so that I'm not using the arrow keys, because if you use the arrow keys, sometimes it'll mess around with stuff. So we'll go to the next frame here, move this, line it up. And this is the basic process of rotoscoping your lightsaber. Just going frame by frame and lining up the mask. Looks okay, it's a little off. You can see we don't need too much rounding here because it's on the hilt of the lightsaber pretty much, and the hilt of the lightsaber is a little flat. We could even like curve it inward a little bit because that's what the lightsaber is. And you'll see follows the lightsaber there. And make sure you do hit this mask path button, because if you don't, you'll just animate different frames, but it won't actually track your animation basically. So you'll basically be only animating or rotoscoping that one frame, and you won't have any of your previous progress saved. So let's go out and we'll just make a mask for this one as well. We'll also make this like a nice blue, just so we can really differentiate it from the other mask. So we'll create a new solid again, and we'll call this red lightsaber. This comp size, it's pretty much already comp size, and of course it's white. And then turn the view layer off for that and make another 6-point mask. Alternatively, you could just copy this mask and paste it onto here, and then turn off this. So get rid of the mask path, then grab this. You can double click on one point of the mask and it'll actually select the entire mask, and you can do stuff like rotate the whole thing and move the whole thing as a whole. But we're just going to move this over here and line it up as the red lightsaber. And again, I mentioned this in the previous tutorial video, but this piece of footage is from our LCC short film, our saber comp entry that we did, Statera. A link for that will be up in the top right hand corner and also down in the description if you want to check it out. All right, and then we'll just make this red, just so that we know the color kind of blends with that, but that's okay. All right. So to make this rotoscoping process a little bit easier, there is an option somewhere where you can have 2 windows of the same thing, or even 4 windows of the same image, but I cannot currently find that option here in the default settings of After Effects, so you might have to go kind of searching for that. I might have accidentally disabled it. I've done that a few times, I believe. So, all right, now let's just go over some tips and tricks for rotoscoping the lightsabers. So if we go over here to this lightsaber, and let's say you're moving stuff around, you have some stuff like selected, you go to the next frame, or something like this point. Sometimes, for some reason, it will bevel like this is when you go to the next frame and you drag on it. I can't seem to make it happen here. But sometimes when you do it, it will turn into a point like this where it'll have levers that you can bevel or, rotate the the entire thing. And if you don't want that, like I don't want, what you can just do is come over here to the vertex tool again, and then just click it again, and it'll undo the beveling or the rounding, as you can see there. So yeah, I'm just going to go through and do this entire thing pretty much, and then I'll come back to you when I am done. Alright, so the rotoscoping for the lightsabers is now complete, which took a long time. Normally one frame will take me around 20 seconds if I really need to do something on it. Normally just 15 seconds. I've gotten pretty fast at it. But yeah, as you can see, the rotoscoping is pretty much done. But as you can see, there's a few parts where the mask goes through the subject, and when you're adding coloring or something like that, like if we turn this on, you can see that it's supposed to be behind him, but it's on top of him instead. So what we can do in this circumstance is create another mask, and this mask is basically going to mask our other mask. Wow, it's a lot of masks. But we're going to animate this as well, and we're going to set this up to, moving the entire thing there. We're going to set this up to mask the part of the body that we don't want the lightsaber to be at. We can even feather this a little bit, maybe about 5 pixels. Just so that when we add the glow in a later tutorial, it won't cover the person's body. Just the aura of the glow will be behind the mask, not the actual lightsaber. So if we turn this back on, oh, yep, we have to set this to subtract. And then, as you can see, it masks it out. Maybe turn this down to like 3 or something. We don't want it too feathered. But, yeah, looks a lot better. But as you can see, you need to move it out of the way the next frame or the frame that it doesn't have the lightsaber, because it will accidentally mask it. You don't want this floating across your screen masking all your lightsabers. So, make sure to do that before and after for all the frames where it goes behind or in front of that person. And I'll just do this real quick and come back to you when I'm done. Alright, we're finally done masking the masks, and if we turn on both of the layers, you can see this looks pretty good. There might be a frame or two that are a little off or not exact. This is a little bit of a sloppy job here, but the glow will actually mostly cover this when we do it in the next tutorial. So let's just watch through this. Looks pretty good. Alright, and I believe that is it. So, we're done with rotoscoping. This is a pretty tedious process, but you can get really good at it to where you get pretty fast. And yeah, now the lightsabers are ready for the glow. So, we're going to address that in the next tutorial, and I'll see you then. I've been Oliver, this has been NetSlow Productions, and I'll see you in the next one.